Welcome back to Haunted and Historic Australia for another episode in our Adventures series. In this episode, we continue our Castlereagh visit with the first Wesleyan Methodist Church erected in Castlereagh. Such a historic area, we couldn't wait to come and have a look at this little area here that has not only the church, but it has a cemetery and the old schoolhouse across the road. This is the Upper Castlereagh Methodist Cemetery. It's been here quite a while. Not as long as the other cemetery. Looks as though they may still be interring people in here, so not really one that you want to film too closely. Some of these are white crosses are interesting. I'll have to check that out. So Castlereagh Conference Centre, retreats, weddings, conferences, group accommodation. So they have accommodation in here too. Functions and events. Very interesting. So that must be a little hall. That part's interesting down there. It's like a little clock on it. Can you get through there? Alright, so that's one way in. So there's even toilets in here. Some duckies. How interesting. John Lees was an important man in building this Methodist church. It was his land that was used to build the first church in 1817. He was once a part of the New South Wales cause. Apparently he was more interested in gambling and drinking for quite a time, but after being bitten by a venomous snake, it changed him. And he looked towards his faith, organising for the building of this church. The story went that Captain Arthur Phillip, or Governor Arthur Phillip, had in place that the cause and the convicts got equal rations. This would enable the convicts to get as much as they could for working hard. But when Captain Joseph Foveaux took over in the late 1700s, this was abolished, and the cause were able to get as much land as they wanted, as well as extra rations. John Lees was clearly in this party. The cause used convicts as a labour on their lands and paid them in rum, which was plentiful for them. It got quite out of hand as the convicts were all drunk. Instead of using the rum themselves as currency, they simply drank it. And this caused what we know today as the Rum Rebellion. The government got involved and it just went to shit pretty much. They tried to stop the cause getting so many convicts for labour, and it was just an all-out brawl. And we'll go into this in another episode, one that focuses around Governor Bligh. But for now, back to John Lees. He did correct his ways eventually. And yes, build it and they will come. Many joined the church once opened and still come to this day. Now, the first church was just an extension of his home where parishioners came to meet. And then in 1848, they built this grand specimen, as well as the other buildings that include the bell tower, possibly rung to have parishioners come to Mass. I don't believe anyone is inside. Small ducks. It's lovely. Little tower. The church. It's very quiet. There's people here. Wander around the back here and see if I can meet up with Mitch. So they're definitely looking after this one. Mitch might have even gone through the cemetery. Wow. Big structure here. It's interesting to see what it is. Bell tower. Perhaps they rang the bell and the citizens would come to Mass. Little cat over there. And there's Mitch. Little hall. Just a memorial hall. Very interesting. But I wanted to have a look down at this bell tower. Pigeons. I'll go and check that out. Must be a little place that people can sit together, walking the labyrinth. Isn't that interesting? Looks like it's a little school area. The labyrinth. It's a 5-circle labyrinth based on the pattern in the cathedral in France. Wow, how interesting is that? I'll get a picture of that. Wow, isn't that interesting? Not really sure how old, what kind of bird that was. Not really sure how old this is. What's that say there? Oh, it's for games. I don't know how to pronounce it. Bocce ball. So this is a church that has current group meetings and what do you know? Maybe they rang that for us. Or it's 4. No, 3:32, so it must be someone's rung it for us, maybe. Isn't that interesting? Little seat. This plaque that states the Sacred Acre, it has been attributed to John Wesley, the co-founder of Wesleyan Methodist Church, along with his brother Charles. It has been written as one of his most famous quotes, but there are many that protest that he didn't actually say this. Still, it is lovely and quite a nice way to live your life. The bell tower was quite a sight, and Mitch didn't waste the opportunity to have a good look inside and see how it ticked, or rung, as it were. Seated area. The clock's wrong. It's a nice little grounds here. Some of it's original, some of it isn't. There's the cemetery back here, Mary Helen. Now I believe it was Wesleyan Methodist, and now it's uniting. They may have absorbed Methodist. But there's a little cemetery in here, 1928. Well, there's some older ones over here, I believe. Howell family. John Lees. Okay, so John Lees, I believed, was the one who established this church here. And he's there. Either that's him or it's one of his descendants. Henry Gorman. It's Kookaburra up there, I think. Here at Cackling. But John Lees and Sarah Lees. 41, 1848. Sometimes it's hard to tell if it's the Reverend or perhaps his children. They used to use the same names. Pass the names down, so often you wouldn't know if you were looking at the grave of the senior or the junior. But they did say John was buried in here, and that's definitely John Lees. That's a good size as well. I would have thought it'd say Reverend on it, and it doesn't, so that's what's made me think that it may not have been his. Could be his son, perhaps. 1840. So he would have been born earlier on, but that could be John Lees there. And there's a big one further back, which is Ellen Jones. Unfortunately, people don't always understand why you would want to film a cemetery. But they're so old that, you know, you want to record. One looks like it might be sinking a little bit. Charlotte Mason, Ralston, Howell. We've got more further down. These are in a lot better condition than what we've seen some of the older ones. There's a couple here, so we could be unmarked graves here. yeah, school in the background. 1878. So it must have been flourishing Castlereagh around the 1800s, and then it kind of faded. And although there still are a lot of people living in the area, it wasn't as bustling as it once was, being that it was created by Lachlan Macquarie, the town, and one of the 5 major towns that he created for people coming in and moving northwest, west. But yes, it's definitely one to come and have a look at. But it is still in use, so we won't concentrate too much down there. But it looks like the older stuff is up here, this close part to Major Collis. Let's have a look at him. Major. Died at Inverleigh. Well, that's interesting. We'll have to have a little look into Major Collis. Collies. Yeah. It's so peaceful here. There's one at the front here. And a lot of them in here. It's quite interesting. So it's a retreat here as well. They must have, they've got kind of like cabins back there. So it might be something to look into. Maybe staying here. Oh, we just found something to take a photo of. Water bird of some kind, isn't it? I thought it was a kookaburra, but it's just him building a nest by the look of it. Interesting. Yeah, so it might be worth even coming and staying here, filming overnight. See if we can do that, because the schoolhouse over there would be interesting as well. 1878 established. Must have been thriving back in the 1870s.
He's making a nest up there. I just filmed him grabbing a stick.
John Lees passed away in 1836 due to a long-enduring illness he'd had, and before they were able to legally inter parishioners into a Wesleyan Methodist cemetery. With the upgrade of the church in 1848 and new laws allowing the burial, the Lees family and other loyal parishioners made a pilgrimage to Castlereagh Burial Ground in 1921, where John Lees had been laid to rest, and dug him up, bringing his body to its rightful place onto the ground he once lived on and under the Wesleyan Methodist denomination. As I was saying, it'd be nice to stay here and film overnight. Willy Wagtails. Maybe they have a lot more going on when there's people staying. And that's the back of the church there. Peaceful. It's probably a sign that says keep off the grass, but I went round the other way and I didn't notice it. Oops. No parking in driveway. Well, that's the other side. I believe Mitch has probably filmed this side. Nice little spot. Peaceful, very peaceful. Curious as to what's down there. Here we go, this is, wow. This marks the historic spot of the second church built at Castlereagh by John Lees in 1819. The first being the Christ Church, I would assume. Ooh, Wow, look at that, they've got the names of everybody going up there. Wow, that's lovely. Not sure if Mitch got that. That's lovely. As attendance grew, it became evident for the need of a new, larger chapel, which often happens. Samuel Lee, that's right, we spoke of Samuel Lee when we went to the Parramatta Wesleyan Methodist Cemetery. He was the one who basically introduced it into Australia. And then the fellow down there took it over. But Samuel Lee, in his letter to the Methodist Committee upon his arrival in Portsmouth and reported in the Methodist Magazine of London in September 1820, wrote, "Our second chapel at Castlereagh, 50 miles from Sydney, is 28 feet by 14 feet by 12 high. This is a second place built for divine worship by Mr. John Lees at the same place, and it will be like unto the others of the mission, free of expense." Ooh. Mr. John Lees has been very blessed. When I first knew him, he was very poorly and much afflicted, but of late God has blessed him with health, and religion has made him happy, and heaven has crowned his labours 100-fold. That's nice. There's something romantic in the approach to the little chapel. Well, 200 years off. It's still pretty romantic looking, isn't it? I wonder if people get married here. It's very pretty. Look at a little ornate fence. I wonder what tree this is. Let's have a little look here. Oh yeah, they're blocking people from even trying to drive in here. They don't want anyone driving in. That's another end of the cemetery there, which I'm sure Mitch is going to film. I just wanted to have a little look down further. It's a nice little place. Like I'm nuts. There he is down there. Cremations. Some of these look really old. And through there they must have that cordoned off for the people staying, so it wasn't directly next to the cemetery. Oh, look at that. That's a nice angle. That was interesting. Don't know if you noticed, but the focus went in and out wobbly a minute ago. That was interesting. Wonder if it's going to do it again. Kind of wobbled, didn't it? Might replay that back a couple of times so you can see. But I saw it with my eye, and as my eye was wobbling. Isn't that interesting? Heard something right behind me then. Creaking. I think there's visitors here. Not of the living. I know Mitch is behind that building, but this sounded like it just happened just here. Behind me. That was creepy. There's a little wind. Little. But I have a feeling this place is haunted. Just a little. It needs investigation. So we'll definitely be back here. If I didn't see that wobble in the film, I probably wouldn't have heard the creaking. Wow. Well, the time is 3:47, so it rang about 15 minutes ago, so it rings every 47, yeah, we'll stay here an extra 10 minutes, but I think it's off. I've got a feeling it might be off a little bit, so I'd like it to ring for 4 o'clock. We'll see what happens. But although we have to get to another one, we have to get to another cemetery after this. But we're still not done with Penrith. There's still more to be done here. Now, I'm exiting. It's only because I want to go and see what's further down. Now, actually, I know that Mitch probably filmed or took a photo of this, but I just wanted to capture it. At the front of the church there, it says Methodist Church, 1847, erected in the place of the first Wesleyan chapel in Australia, built by John Lees, 1817. So this one was built in 1847, which is even older than the last one that we just saw, which was 1878. But this one was the original was the second built of the last one that we viewed. That was in place of the first one that was built. But oftentimes, and as we've seen, they're just modest little churches set up, just somewhere for people to get together and meet. And there goes the cat. Yeah. (1848) with 250 people in attendance. That's lovely. So 1848 on this one. Very nice. Yeah, I wanted to get down here and have a little look at the other side of the fence when you go past, to see what kind of accommodation they have back there. I'm on gravel at the moment, so apologies for the gravelly noises and the bumpiness now. Old trees, gum trees. I'm really curious about that schoolhouse over there. I love that. And there's something else. I might go over and film that now. I don't believe I'll be run over, but I'll have a look anyway. With regard to the school, the old chapel that was once attached to John Lee's residence that he had the parishioners gathered in for Mass before the 1848 church was built, became the schoolhouse, and the Wesleyan Methodist parishioners' children were taught there until the state opened up the school across the road in 1878. The building next to the school was believed to be that of the schoolmaster. There's currently someone living in there at the moment who was outside the property as we were there, so we couldn't really film directly at it for too long anyway. But we did have the school to capture. There also seemed to be a little toilet block out there, as well as some kind of outbuilding. It does appear to have tape around it, and possibly will be rebuilt or renovated to take it back to how it once looked, hopefully, and not just bulldozed down for something else. But with this history across the road from other history, they couldn't just let it fall into ruin and disrepair without having a plan to restore it, you would hope. There's a story about a James Rutledge, who was the school teacher at the residence. He was also a man of faith. He and his wife Lucy lived in the schoolmaster's residence, and would have done until the next schoolmaster came in. And so on until the school was finally replaced by another school in another area of Castlereagh. The The school and the schoolmaster's house fell into a little bit of disrepair until it was repaired, the schoolmaster's house, and sold in 2011. Hence why we're not able to film it as someone's living inside. Yeah, there's something over there. Now it looks to be high voltage fences or something. Oh, it says construction, so I'm not going to touch the fence anyway. But just so curious I am. It's like a little, some kind of a structure. A little structure and a little dunny by the look of it, or an outhouse behind. And old by the look of them. But definitely somewhat old. Sorry, I just wanted to zoom in a little bit more and give you a good idea of what I'm looking at and talking about, in case I had a feeling it was zooming in on the fence and not the actual little outhouse thing there. Must be private property owned by someone. And back there's the little water tower behind the schoolhouse, which I'll zoom out and you can see. That's the schoolhouse and the water tower back there. Of course, it's all old and boarded up. Hopefully someone does it up to its former glory. It'd be nice. Someone obviously owns the land here. I'm curious, 1878. So naturally the church was here first and then the schoolhouse. But I want to see what this little thing is here. What have we got here? It's a memorial. Oh, I wish I could read it. Oh, bugger. It's got the names at service in Great War. I want to say 1914 to 1918 at the bottom there. Let me just get in here. So you can see some names. The names of those, and I don't touch the fence in case I get electrocuted. I don't think it's electrical, but definitely people don't want anyone going in there. And then underneath, someone must have taken a photo of this in its heyday, so I'll find an older photo of it if I can and be able to show you. But it looks as though it's a war memorial. Probably the names of those in Castlereagh that were in the Great War or World War One, and they're being honoured with an obelisk. Now that place down the back there is really intriguing. Look at it. Must have been something. Maybe it was little toilets for the school. Little toilet block. I don't know. Wash sheds maybe of some kind. And there's the school, which I'll try and film a bit more. Nikki's still filming in there by the looks of it. Just the pigeons love these old buildings. Oh, what is that? Some box or something, electrical box has fallen down. Wish I could just, if I was taller you could see a bit more. Must have been a bell up the top there perhaps. In the top. It's all bricked up and boarded off. Falling to bits. What's back there? Something else back there. An old bathtub or something. Interesting. Looks like an old bathtub or wash basin of some kind. But yeah, there's definitely some interesting stuff back there. Oh yeah, I can see women's written there. Don't know if you can see it quite clear enough, but in the middle there, between the two fences. There's wood and it looks like there's a bit of ivy growing on the fence, but it definitely says women, so they were toilets. Men must be behind it, but so they were toilet block for the, I can zoom out. No. There we go, for the school. Very good. And then someone's house, so we won't be filming that way. Gum tree, and there's the accommodation over there, which is really what I wanted to see. Very historic. So Penrith has its own historic drive, if you will, around the area. So does St Mary's. St Mary's has a walk. Penrith has a drive because everything's kind of further afield to get to. So it's really nice here. So you'd stay in one of those cabins for your retreat or group. Very nice. What do you think? Maybe we need to stay here. Stay here one night and film overnight.
Yeah, why not? Good idea.
Yeah. Sorry? Retreat. Yeah, I think it's mainly for groups though, so they may not allow just individuals. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, it's a nice little area with the cemetery and the church. Very historic and well worth coming down to check it out. Yes. So not only have you got the church, the cemetery, and this was the grounds of the second church of Castlereagh, but it still was 1817, so it's only a couple of years really behind the first. So when you think of how old this place is, the grounds are ancient, but where people are buried, the first burials, and the schoolhouse you've got as well, and those who died probably in the cemetery from World War One, and then the romantic scenery around as well. So it's quite a nice little place. Definitely check it out. I'm glad I did. We've got to move on to another one now, so we have to say goodbye. But definitely come check it out. Oh, I wish the bell rang, but that's okay. Might ring still yet before we go. We enjoyed going around this little area and having a look at the history that was once so thriving in Castlereagh. Well, we're pretty much almost done with Castlereagh, just one more stop at McCarthy Cemetery to top it off, and then we're off to Penrith. But we hope you enjoyed the Castlereagh visit. It is such a really interesting and historical place. It's definitely worth having a look at.
Aussie made